All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the October 22nd CVRD board meeting. I note that we have Director Arbor and Director Hardy online, and welcome to everyone. Start off as we always do with an acknowledgement. We're meeting today on the unceded traditional territories of the Comox First Nation, the traditional keepers of this land, and reading call to action number 58, Church Apologies and Reconciliation. We call upon the Pope to issue an apology to survivors, their families, and communities for the Roman Catholic Church's role in the spiritual, cultural, emotional, physical, and sexual abuse of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis children in Catholic-run residential schools. We call for that apology to be similar to the 2010 apology issued to the Irish victims of abuse and to occur within 1 year of the issuing of this report and to be delivered by the Pope in Canada. And starting off with business, the adoption of minutes from October 8th. Moved and seconded. Any questions on those minutes? Any opposed to adoption? And that passes. And moving on to reports, we have the Black Creek Oyster Bay Services Committee minutes for October 7th. And so it's been moved and seconded. Any questions on that? Any opposed? And that passes. Recommendation number 1, if someone cares to move it, this is areas C and D. So Director Rice is not here, so this will be just all on Director Green. Okay, did someone could move and second it? Okay, perfect. I saw Doug wave. That felt like a second. Okay, all right, and all the spotlights on you, Director Grief. Any opposed? And that carries. Next, we're looking at October 7th ESC minutes for receipt. Moved and seconded. Any questions? Any opposed? And next, the Sewage Commission for October 8th minutes. Moved and seconded. Any questions? Any opposed? And the minutes for the Elected Officials Forum. Please don't move it, Walter. From October 3rd for receipt. Any questions? Any opposed? And that passes. And now legislative considerations for direct action housing initiatives. And this is a report dated October 18th for receipt. And I will take a motion for receipt and then pass it to our CAO. So if we get that motion. Okay, then moved and seconded and pass it over to CAO Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon to the board. Jake Martins, our General Manager of Corporate Services, will be introducing the staff report, which will then lead into the bylaws section, but staff are available for any questions that might support the discussion. So, Jake.
Thank you, James, and good afternoon. Yeah, so this report, as James notes, brings forward the legislative considerations following the board's direction concerning the direct housing actions that were considered at the October 8th regular meeting. At that meeting, the board will call providing direction for staff to bring forward 2 bylaw amendments, one to bylaw number 52 being the emergency shelter and supportive housing land acquisition service establishment bylaw, and the second to bylaw 389 being the Comox Valley Homelessness Support Service Establishment bylaw. To confirm, these amendments would enable the board to provide the necessary resources to establish and operate a housing corporation, as well as provide further financial and capacity supports to nonprofit housing organizations in alignment with the report that was mentioned earlier. The draft bylaw amendments are to be considered following this item on the report. And so subject to the board granting 3 readings to the bylaw, the board must confirm a few initial considerations regarding proceeding for participating area approval. Following confirmation of these details, generally the bylaws are to proceed to the Inspector of Municipalities for approval, then through a participating area approval process, and then following adoption of the bylaw by the board. The matter before the board at this current time is to seek whether participating area approval is to be sought for the entire service area or whether it is to be sought separately for each of the jurisdictions that are participants in the service. The board's consideration and confirmation is required at this stage, as that will inform then the necessary approval process that will be undertaken, which the board may have direction on certain matters depending on your first decision concerning whether, again, it is separately or whether it is for the entire service area. Staff have outlined a few considerations in this report and overall would recommend that the board taking control and being responsible for the participating area approval is the most efficient and most cost effective, and can ensure that this process can proceed in a timely manner, which we know is certainly relevant under this consideration. With that, Mr. Chair, I'm pleased to answer any questions regarding this and welcome the board's feedback generally.
Great, thanks very much, Jake. I'm just looking to see if there are any questions. We had a pretty full discussion of this at our previous meeting. Okay, Director Grants, thank you.
My light was flashing this time. That's a good thing. Yeah, just in reading through this, I don't think that the citizens of our community are necessarily in favor of this. I don't think personally that this is a local government issue. And so I'll be voting against this motion, this recommendation as it comes up.
All right, thanks, Director Grant. Appreciate you clarifying your vote and explaining the reasoning. Now we have the Director Grieve.
Yes, actually, I have to concur in some regards because I think that there wasn't the proper outreach to the communities on this. I think that this is a very big issue. Obviously, we're all in favor of helping out with the housing shortage, but I do think that to put this to an AAP, my experience on AAPs has been a huge pushback because people perceive it as being shoved down their throats. So I would be much more comfortable if the board, first of all, would do an outreach to the municipalities and the community in general. And secondly, I do think that the alternate approval process is a recipe for disaster. So I'm not voting for the alternate approval process. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for your comments, Director Grieve and Director Brown.
Thanks, Chair. I think this, I know in the village and the broader community that housing is the #1 concern for everyone I speak to. And I think this is a really positive step to get us moving forward. And should the province step up and start offering housing in a better way, and we don't need to provide this service, then that is a consideration we could do then. But right now, we have a desperate need for affordable housing in all of our communities. And this is a way that we can move forward on that collaboratively.
All right, thanks very much, Director Brown. I see a hand up from Director Arbor online. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just want to speak in favor as well of the resolution. I think we're not creating new services here. Those two services already exist. We're just trying to resource and retool ourselves to be more effective on the housing front and in terms of our ability to engage with senior government around more projects to address the housing shortage. I've been talking to my residents for 6 years. They want to see action on housing from all levels of government. I know there's a lot of support for it, and I don't have a concern around the AAP process. I think it allows some participation from our residents while at the same time allowing us to move forward with the proposal. Thanks.
All right, thanks very much. And now Director Hillian.
Thanks, Chair. I'm also going to speak in favor. Again, as we all know, housing is the crucial issue in our communities. We've had a housing assessment. We've had a strategic planning process that identified this as an option moving forward. We know from both experience and from what we hear from experts that the private market is not, in fact, going to solve this problem of affordable housing in the numbers that we need based on the assessments that we have. We also know that to this point, government programming, and as Director Brown states, it may change, but to this point, it hasn't solved the problem either. So we're looking at this as what can we do reasonably with the levers of municipal government to help this situation and assure that there is housing here for the children and families that are growing up today, so that they can actually stay and live here, and so that the people that we need to continue having a strong economy and strong services in this community actually have a place to live that they can afford. On that basis, I applaud the work of staff to put this together, and I'll be voting in favor.
Thank you, Director Hillian, and Director Morin, please go ahead.
Great, thanks, Chair. Yeah, I'm definitely in favor of this, and I mean, we're in a kind of a state of limbo right now provincially, so we don't know when and if there will be any provincial help coming our way. I think this sets us up to be prepared for partnerships with the province, partnerships with other bodies. It helps leverage the opportunities that could come forward, and which we're hearing in our community already. So I think it's a good move. It creates the framework that we need to develop whatever way we want, whether that's large scale, small scale, whatever. And it focuses on non-market, which is clearly the prevailing need in our community. Thanks.
And Director McCollum.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, I'm in support of the recommendation that's provided in the report. I did have a question on Service 450 and the change the wording around the maximum requisition change. According, what page am I on here? I think it's 6 of the staff report. The maximum requisition reads as follows. I see. I think I actually just answered my question. I was thinking that it was the lesser of the stated amount or the tax requisition per thousand, but it's the other way around. So never mind. I'll stop talking.
I'm seeing nods from Jake that you've clarified your own query. And I guess briefly, I'll say that I'm also going to be voting in support of this. This is something that's been from our strat planning when we began this term. This has been the top priority. So it's not sudden and it's not without consultation, or we've all had a chance over the last 2 years almost since that strat planning session to talk with the folks in our communities. I know from talking to folks in my community that housing has continued to be the absolute #1 concern. I feel that we're addressing it, and we've been directing staff to get us to this point since the beginning of this term. A lot of good work has been put in. So while I understand there's a variety of views in the room and respect those, I'll certainly be voting in support. And I think are we still on receipt? Okay. Anyone opposed to receipt?
Chair.
Yeah, Dr. Hardy.
Yeah, I guess just sharing some of my thoughts or concerns. And that would be, again, prior to us amending these bylaws, do we fully understand the governance of this housing corporation that we're contemplating incorporating? And then I guess another concern would be that, plans and reports have come out saying that all municipalities are on board with regards to this process. But my understanding is the town of Comox is still only going to participate in one of the 2 services. And my understanding, and maybe I'm a little confused, but I thought at our last meeting, the town of Comox was going to go back with what was being proposed and come back with some type of a resolution saying whether they're going to be in the game or only partially in the game. And I'm just kind of wondering where the town of Comox, like if I understood correctly, Director Grant was going to go back to the town of Comox. The CVRD staff was going to go back to the town of Comox staff and kind of just really fully understand where the town of Comox was going to be in this process. I'm just wondering if that occurred or not. And I guess another concern that I have is, again, I know we're just into somewhat finishing the BC election. We still don't know fully where the BC government is, if it's going to be NDP or the Conservatives, and what the BC government's priorities are going to be with regards to housing. So I'm just kind of, again, I guess where I'm going with all this is I'm just wondering if we're putting the cart before the horse with the number of uncertainties still in place here right now. And because of those uncertainties, I'm going to have a difficult time voting to move forward with this process. Thanks.
All right, thanks. I'll turn it over to Director Grant as you were asking directly about Comox.
Yeah, so in answer to the question, we have not heard from the RD yet. I think they're scheduled in an early November meeting. We had one council meeting the Wednesday after the Tuesday meeting, so it didn't happen then. So our next meeting's early November.
And CEO, did you want to respond to any of the comments that were made about the process and the uncertainty that exists?
Sure, I can try, and just on a couple of the question about the governance of the potential housing corporation. The work to determine that governance, the work to determine the scope and scale of that housing corporation, that would all be work done in 2025 to create the articles of incorporation. That would be done in concert with municipalities to ensure that there's alignment in the work at the municipal level, at the regional district level. And that is all work that, as we heard last time, it will take better part of 2025 to be able to determine those outcomes. What was before the board on October 8th, and again here today, is the mechanism to give the authority to the regional district to undertake that work. And that would be the amendment to these two bylaws that we're speaking of. In terms of the dialogue between the municipalities and the regional district, that is work that is still to come, not just in the work of 2025 and developing those articles of incorporation, but also in presenting to council, having more dialogue at the staff to staff level. No dates have been set yet, but it was understood to be doing that work in parallel to the bylaw amendment process. Without the bylaw amendment process coming underway, the authorities won't be there for the 2025 to 2029 financial planning process. And those are the authorities. Those authorities are what is needed to be able to advance the work around articles of incorporation, governance, those other points you had mentioned, Director Hardy.
All right, thanks for that perspective, CEO. And I'll just, Director Moore wants to speak again, so please go ahead.
Thanks, Chair. So it sounds like, to clarify James's comments, that there's going to be decision points along the way with this process. And it's not like today we're deciding on the big picture. We're deciding on the first step of the process, and there will be many, many opportunities over the next while, if this passes today, to determine, to kind of answer those questions. Is that correct?
We're getting nods from the CAO for anyone who couldn't hear. Thank you for clarifying that, Director Moore. And Director Harvey, you had another comment you wanted to make? Director Arbor, did you want to speak again? Hand down, I'm guessing that means no. Okay. I can. All right. Appreciate all the views shared. The recommendation, I think we've now moved and seconded it, so it's on the table. And oh, actually no, so we dispense with receipt. We haven't moved the recommendation. Okay, thanks. I thought we had voted on receipt, but let's do it again, just for good measure. We have, and so yeah, we're now on the recommendation. Thank you. Moved and seconded. Thanks very much. Any further comments at this point? Director Grieve.
I think it's prudent upon us to defer this decision until such time as we do have some dialogue with the municipalities on it. So if I get a seconder, I would like to defer.
I'll second.
So Director Hardy has seconded a deferral motion. All right, so we can, is there any comment on that? Yeah, sorry, can you just clarify a specific time frame for that deferral? Go ahead.
Well, defer this decision until such time as staff have an opportunity to liaise with the municipal councils and to get a read from them on this issue. So until such time as they actually go out and deal with the municipalities on this.
Okay, I'll maybe ask Jake if he can, I think, so summarize that, but I think he's got the essence of it. I'm sorry, Clerk.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so I think the intent here is not to target a date, but to enable time for direct staff to liaise with municipal councils. I will note that if the board proceeds with this resolution as it's currently drafted, our next step in this would be to forward the bylaws to the inspector of municipalities for approval. That's a process that can take 1 to 2 months. And certainly there's time in that window then to engage with the municipal councils. Should the inspector approve, it then comes back before the board to then lock in essentially the details of the alternative approval process. And at that stage, again, the board is not committed. You're able to essentially change course at that moment, should that be the will of the board. But delaying this matter now to liaise with councils, well, we'll certainly take the board's direction on that. We would then have to come back subsequent to that and then seek inspector approval, which would put this likely in a bit of a challenging timeline situation with the financial plan. So, yeah.
So if I understand you correctly, you say it is possible for both the consultation with municipalities to occur during the time that it's in Victoria with the Director of Municipalities, such that when it returns from Victoria, we would have completed ideally that consultation and could vote with that knowledge in mind. Is that correct?
I don't think so. I think that the recommendation here on the staff report is to proceed with the AAP to support the amendment of these bylaws. Subsequent on this agenda is the readings of the bylaw. That then enables staff to submit those bylaws to the inspector of municipalities.
Okay.
If there is a deferral motion here that as it's on the floor, then staff would not be in a position to submit those bylaws to the inspector. And so at whatever time that the board does give readings to the bylaws, if the board does, only then could we submit the bylaws to the inspector. So I think by deferring this particular motion today, then we will not be in a position to submit those bylaws to the inspector, and we will be faced with that delay. We don't know what that length of time is, so that's out of our hands.
I certainly understand that the deferral motion today would prevent the bylaws going out. My understanding is that when the Director of Municipalities is completed the process, there will be another decision point for the board. I guess that's the point I was trying to make. So this is not a final decision. And that timeline would allow for consultation that can occur in parallel rather than sequentially.
Sorry, yes.
Is that correct?
That is always the intent, and that was based on the motion from a couple of weeks ago,
Yeah.
is that we will be doing that dialogue in parallel.
Yeah, okay, just wanted to clarify that. So, okay, so we have the motion on the table currently, and this next in line is Director.
Well, I could probably speak for an hour on this topic, but I won't. I'm against deferral. We know that housing affordability is one of the top issues, the top 3 issues of residents locally and for most parts in Canada. They really don't care who provides the housing, whether it's private developers, regions, municipalities, feds, or the province. They just want more affordable housing built. We have a chance to do that. We've also been, kind of saying to our staff pretty poignantly, at least I have, like, let's get going.
Yeah, no time and place, we've already done that.
Okay. I will ask our corporate officer to clarify that. I appreciate the point of order. Thanks, Director Grant. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The restriction on the debate being held to time and place is only when the deferral is to another time within the same meeting. So in this case, it's in order if the board wishes to debate the merits of the deferral beyond just time and place.
Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate you querying that, Director Rand. And I appreciate the clarification from Jake. I want to make sure we're following the corporate officer's guidance. So Director Kerr, please feel free to continue.
Fascinating. Okay. Out of respect for our staff and the fact that we're asking them to move this agenda forward quickly, and what I've heard from Mr. Martin is I will be voting against the deferral. Thank you.
Thanks very much. And Director Morin.
Thanks, Chair. I think this highlights the dilemma that particularly municipal directors find themselves in, and that's wearing the municipal hat and regional hat. When I sit here, I attempt to wear my regional hat while still considering the needs and wants of my municipality, particularly the citizens. I feel I have a good read on the wants and needs of the citizens. I know that we have the majority of our council on the board, so it is a bit different. However, we are all here representing our communities, but looking at regional initiatives regionally. So I mean, we could come to every meeting and decide to refer everything to the municipalities if we wanted to. To me, that defeats the whole purpose of having a regional board. So I'm definitely not in favor of prolonging this, considering it was part of strat planning. We've tasked our staff with working as quickly as possible to get this going. We've had plenty of opportunity. I don't see, I don't understand why there would be a deferral at this point. Thanks.
All right, appreciate your comments there. Directors Arbor or Hardy, is anything you want to add here?
Yeah, yeah, thanks, Chair. And again, the concern that I have is we still don't have a full commitment from the town of Comox, in my opinion, regarding what services that they're going to be involved with moving forward. And like I said at the last meeting, my understanding was that the town of Comox was going to go back and get a resolution with regards to whether they were going to be fully participating in these services or not. And to me, the town of Comox hasn't put forward a resolution stating that yes, they're going to participate in both processes, and hence why there's a need to amend the bylaws. So you have representatives from the town of Comox that they're saying yes or no to the amendments to the bylaws when they actually haven't really gone back and talked with their council so in a meaningful way so they can come back and vote accordingly. So that's my concern. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Director Hardy. And Director Arbor, you also want to speak.
Yes, thanks. I appreciate Dr. Hardy's comments. Although I would also say that that same rationale was not applied last month around the turf field, where we had one jurisdiction that was out and we hadn't heard back from, and Dr. Hardy did vote in favor of proceeding to AP on that one. For me, I think I've been really consistent for the last 2 years that I don't anticipate the town of Comox will join the second service. I would like them to join it, but I think we've heard in the past that the appetite is very limited. We've heard from Dr. Kerr that he has an interest, and maybe other members of council, but I am making a positive decision today on the basis that I can live with Comox not participating in that second service. And if they do, then it will be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Arbor. Appreciate your comments. Any? Yeah, just let me finish my sentence and I'll do exactly that. So there's a motion to defer. All those in favor? And online? Sorry, anyone, and those, is anyone else in favor online? I just can't see you, Director Hardy.
So I have my hand up there, Chair.
Okay, so you were voting in favor. Gotcha. Okay,
Yes.
appreciate that. Okay, and those opposed? Okay, and that does not carry. So then we have the recommendation as on the screen, if anyone cares to move that. Or sorry, we've been moved it, we're not deferring it, so it's still on the table. And any further comments on that? Okay, and any opposed? Grant and
Yep.
Grieve and Hardy?
I'm opposed as well. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, Grant, Grieve and Hardy opposed, and the remainder in favor. And that is 7 out of 10 votes, which passes the 2/3 bar. And so that carries. Okay, thanks everyone for that discussion. Next is recommendation regarding the Black Creek Oyster Bay Fire Protection Local Area Conversion Establishment Bylaw number 1964 for first and second reading. Could I get a seconder? Second. Thank you very much. Any questions on that? All right, any opposed? And then for third reading? Second, okay. First and second, any questions? And that passes third reading. Next, the procedure bylaw number 1, 2008, amendment number 7. It's for first and second reading. Thank you. Moved and seconded. Thank you very much. Any questions? Any opposed? And that carries. Then for third reading. Okay, okay, thanks very much. And any questions? Anyone opposed? And that passes third reading. And the next one is, let me look at my papers. It's the remuneration and expenses bylaw 2012. Okay. Oh, we're good. Okay. 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 Any commentary on that? Anyone opposed? All right, that passes unanimously. And third reading, first and seconded. Any questions? Anyone opposed? That passes third reading. Next is the Comox Valley Transit Service Local Service Establishment Bylaw number 1990, amendment number 5 for first and second reading. And I see a director wanting to speak on that, Director McCollum.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I will be voting in support of this, but just following up on the lengthy discussion we had on this matter at our last meeting, I'm still looking for clarity as to what the decision point, when the decision points will be around what's included in this service and how we determine. I think there's fairly good clarity on what the first project that we'd like to see in terms of active transportation would be in the service, but we haven't really had we haven't hashed out if that is organizational, capital, ongoing maintenance, any of those things. And yeah, so I guess I'm just looking to understand better what the next step in the process is going to be. Should we make this amendment to the bylaw?
Thanks for the question. And similar to the previous discussion, this is work that would be done. The work to answer some of the questions you've raised there would be done in parallel, in the sense that the authorities needed to amend this service would then give the CVRD the ability to advance this work. So while the work of amending the bylaw is underway, which would include the AAP, staff are working to develop the details on options for the board around topics like governance, the municipal collaboration, financial tools and decision-making supports. And we would aim to have that. I believe there was targeting later this year to come to the board. And we're having those discussions at a staff level as we go along. So there would be, yeah, it's anticipated there'd be more detail around what this transition looks like in the coming months.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, thanks very much. And Director Arbor, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thanks. And I want to thank Dr. McCollum to open the door to my comment because I wasn't thinking about it. I believe we have a really strong basis with the existing municipal plans around active transportation and the one that we completed regionally. I think, our staff is going to have plenty of resources to try to get us to think about priorities. And as well for other initiatives like we saw the Evo bike, and there's a lot of different things I think that this new service could allow us to look at. However, for my fellow electoral area directors, there's some good news today to add to this debate, in that I was surprised to find an article, let me look at the date, yesterday in the Times Colonist, that talks about the regional parks and transportation service that the CRD has. And Colin Plant was celebrating the many investments that are being made through that have just been announced for a number of small, tiny Gulf islands through that service, well outside the boundary between municipalities and rural areas. So I see Main Island is getting $4.5 million. So I realize the CRD is a bit bigger, but I think to date, a lot of our discussion has been focused on that municipal and rural interface. And I think that's where our dialogue is going to continue to be. But it's good to have the awareness that in some regional district, there's actually thought being put about the broader region supporting the outskirts as well. So for the folks on McCallie Road, maybe fingers crossed sometime over the next 20 years. Thanks.
Okay, thanks for sharing that, Director Arbor. And this point, seeing no further lights on, first and second readings have been moved, and any opposed? And Directors Arbor and Hardy, I don't see an indication of a vote, so I'm assuming that you're in favor. Thanks very much. Okay, so that passes. And now for third reading, please. This third reading. Okay, so moved and seconded. Okay, thank you, Director Morin. And for third reading, any opposed? And that carries. Next, we're on to the Emergency Shelter and Supportive Housing Land Acquisition Service Establishment Bylaw number 52. And this is now for first and second readings. Okay, and moved and seconded. Thanks very much. Any further? Director Brandt.
Just wanted to be clear what this was, what this bylaw is for. Is this the one where we're going to move the services from 450 to 451, or whichever way that is, and basically force our community into a place we don't want to be? That's what I'm asking.
So this amendment concerns, as noted, the Emergency Shelter and Supportive Housing Land Acquisition Service, and it is proposing that the purpose be changed to the Comox Valley the name to be changed to the Comox Valley Housing Service. It would then serve as the foundation to provide support or assistance, as it's named in the bylaw, to the proposed housing corporation, as well as authorizing the regional district itself to undertake housing-related initiatives. The town of Comox is currently a participant in this service, and so there's no change to the participants being proposed through this amendment process.
No, but there is a change to what the service is going to do. A major change, by the way. Yeah.
Yes, the change to the services is part of this amendment. Yep.
Thanks for that clarification, Corporate Officer. Any further questions? Okay, we're voting on first and second readings here. Any opposed? Director Grant? Anyone else? Director Hardy? If you could. All right, so Director Grant opposed. All those in favor? An abstention by Director Green, or Director Grieve, looks like. All right, and that carries. And now for third reading, someone can move and second that. Okay, moved and seconded. Any commentary on that? Any opposed to third reading? Director Grant. All right, thank you. And now we'll move on to bylaw number 851, the Comox Valley Homeless Support Service Establishment bylaw number 389, 2015, amendment number 1. And this is for first and second reading. Thanks. Moved and seconded. Any commentary or questions? Seeing none. Any opposed? Director Grant opposed. And now for third reading. Thank you. Moved and seconded. Any questions? Anyone opposed? Director Grant, thank you. All right, and now some items for final adoption. Sorry, Director Grieve, I didn't hear that. I just wanted to understand what you said. Did you want to speak?
No, I just mentioned the fact to my colleague here that I'm not approved. I'm not opposed to the actual establishment. I'm opposed to the process, the AAP.
Okay,
You know, I think it's gonna be a wake-up call to this board. Thank you.
okay, thanks, Director Grieve. All right, now we're on to final adoption, the Graham Lake Water Service Establishment bylaw. If someone could move that, please. Moved and seconded. Appreciate that. Anyone opposed? And that carries. And there's a recommendation to move into a closed meeting, which will begin at the half hour. That's moved and seconded. Any questions on that? Anyone opposed? All right, so we will move in camera and we will reconvene the meeting at the half hour at 3:30. Thanks very much.